I've always prided myself on living a lean, optimized life. It's not about being cheap, it's about being efficient. I live alone in a 500-square-foot condo in a high-rise in Seattle. Every object in my apartment has a purpose. Every dollar in my budget has a job. I'm a software developer, a man who thinks in systems and logic, and I applied that same thinking to my personal finances. My goal was financial independence, and the path to it was paved with conscious, deliberate choices. My electricity bill was a perfect example of this philosophy in action. It was my quiet little trophy of efficiency. For 5 years, it was a beautiful, predictable number, $40. Sometimes 42 in the winter if I used a space heater, sometimes 38 in the summer. It was a testament to my minimalist lifestyle. I don't own a television. I read books under a single, low-wattage LED lamp. I work from home on a power-efficient laptop. I am not a man who leaves lights on or runs a dishwasher half-empty. My $40 bill wasn't just an expense, it was a validation. It was proof that I was in control, that I was a smart consumer who had cracked the code. Then 3 months ago, the code broke. The bill arrived in my inbox just like every other month. I clicked it open with the same absent-minded confidence I always do. But the number I saw was wrong. It was so wrong it felt like a glitch in the matrix. $167.28. I literally laughed out loud. It was an absurdity, a clear and obvious error. They must have accidentally billed me for my neighbor's usage, or maybe the entire floor. I imagined a stressed-out data entry clerk somewhere who had added a 1 where it didn't belong. It was an inconvenience, nothing more. I put it on my to-do list for the next day. Call utility company about billing error. I wasn't worried. I was a man with 5 years of data on my side. I had a mountain of evidence, a consistent, unwavering baseline of $40. I would present the facts, they would see the anomaly, and a correction would be issued. Problem, analysis, solution. That's how my world worked. I went to bed that night with the serene confidence of a man who believes in systems, in logic, and in the fundamental idea that a mistake is just a problem waiting to be solved. I had absolutely no idea that I was not dealing with a simple mistake. I was standing at the edge of a financial rabbit hole, and that $167 bill was my personal white rabbit, leading me down into a new and maddening world where logic didn't apply and control was just an illusion. My confident, logical assault on the billing error began the next morning with a phone call to the utility company. It was a journey into a special kind of bureaucratic hell. After navigating an endless labyrinth of automated prompts, press 1 for billing, press 4 for technical support, I was finally connected to a human being. I explained the situation calmly and clearly, laying out the data. 5 years of consistent $40 bills, followed by this single, inexplicable spike to $167. The representative was polite, patient, and utterly useless. "I can see your usage history, sir," she said in a placid, unbothered tone. "And the meter reading for this month is accurate. It shows a significant increase in your kilowatt-hour consumption." "But that's impossible," I replied, my own calmness starting to fray. "I haven't changed anything. My habits, my appliances, my life, it's all exactly the same. The meter has to be broken." She assured me she would put in a service request to have the meter checked, but warned that if no fault was found, I could be charged a service fee. It was the first hint that in this new game, the house could charge you just for questioning the rules. While I waited for the meter check, I became a phantom in my own home, a ghost haunting the circuits. I declared a one-man war on my own consumption. I unplugged everything that wasn't in active use: the microwave, the coffee maker, the toaster. Their little standby lights, which I'd never even noticed before, now seemed like tiny, mocking symbols of waste. I started taking colder, shorter showers to minimize the water heater's work. I stopped using my desk lamp in the evening, the glow of my laptop screen my only light source. I ate salads for dinner to avoid the energy expenditure of the stove. My home, once my sanctuary of efficient comfort, now felt like a Spartan prison camp, and I was my own warden. It was a miserable, obsessive existence, but I was determined to prove my point. The next bill would be my vindication. It would be $20, and the utility company would have to admit their mistake. A week later, a technician came by while I was at work and left a tag on my door. "Meter tested, no faults found." The next bill arrived a few weeks after that. My heart pounded as I opened the email. This was it, the grand finale of my experiment in extreme conservation. The number on the screen was $164.09. I felt a surge of disbelief so profound it was almost comical. All my efforts, all my sacrifices, sitting in the dark eating cold food, it had made a difference of $3. My feeling of control, my core belief in cause and effect, completely evaporated. I was adrift. The problem wasn't me. The problem wasn't a broken meter. The problem was the system itself. That's when I did the math. The difference between my old bill and my new one was about $127 a month. Multiplied by 12, that's $1,524 a year. It was a number that represented a significant chunk of my discretionary income. It was my vacation fund. It was the money I was setting aside for a new laptop. It was my peace of mind buffer in my savings account, and it was just gone. Siphoned away by an invisible, inexplicable force I had no power to fight. I had just lost over $1,000 a year, and I hadn't even left my apartment. My personal crusade against my own bill quickly evolved into a journalistic investigation. If my meter wasn't broken and my usage hadn't changed, then the only other variable was the price. I started digging. The utility company's website was a masterpiece of corporate obfuscation, a maze of PDFs and regulatory filings designed to be unreadable. But I'm a developer. I read complex documentation for a living. I spent a full Saturday fueled by coffee and rage, piecing together the puzzle. The answer wasn't a single thing. It was a death by 1,000 cuts. There had been a massive state-approved rate hike that had gone into effect a few months prior, something that had been buried on page 12 of the local newspaper. But that was only part of the story. They had also introduced a whole suite of new fees. There was a grid modernization surcharge, a storm recovery fee, and my personal favorite, a fixed delivery charge, which had tripled. This last one was the real killer. It meant that even if I used zero electricity, I would still get a bill for over $50 just for the privilege of being connected to the grid. My frugal, low-usage lifestyle, which had once been rewarded with a low bill, was now being punished. The system was no longer just charging for consumption. It was charging for access. I was paying for my neighbor's new smart meter, for the power lines that were damaged in a storm 3 years ago, for infrastructure projects I would never see. I had gone from being a customer to being a hostage. Armed with this knowledge, I went to our condo's online community forum. I posted a simple question: has anyone else's electricity bill quadrupled in the last 3 months? The response was immediate and overwhelming. It was a digital outpouring of confusion and anger. An elderly woman on the 5th floor saw her bill jump from $50 to $200. A young couple with a newborn on the 12th floor was now paying over $300. We were all in the same boat, and the boat was taking on water. This wasn't my problem, it was our problem. The real-world impact began to set in. That $127 a month, that $1,500 a year, wasn't an abstract number anymore. It was a tangible loss. I canceled 2 of my streaming subscriptions. I stopped my weekly lunch out with my colleagues. The new laptop I was saving for, that goal was pushed back by at least a year. These were small things, I know, first-world problems, but they were my things. They were the small rewards I had budgeted for, the things that made the daily grind feel worthwhile. My carefully optimized life had been forcibly downsized. I felt a sense of profound unfairness. I had done everything right. I chose to live in a small space to minimize my footprint and my costs. I was a conscious, minimal consumer. And yet I was being penalized as if I were living in a McMansion with the lights on 24/7. My choices, it turned out, didn't matter. The system was so vast and so powerful that my individual efforts were meaningless. The loss of that $1,000+ a year was more than a financial hit. It was the loss of a belief system. The belief that if you were smart and disciplined, you could control your own destiny. It turns out you can't. You can only control your tiny corner of it, and the rest is at the mercy of forces you can't even see. There is no happy ending to this story. There was no moment of victory, no letter from the utility company admitting their error and issuing a refund. There was only the slow, grim process of acceptance. The $167 bill is the new reality. It is the new 40. This realization changed me. The initial anger and frustration cooled into a kind of cynical resignation. I couldn't win the war against the rate hikes and fixed delivery fees, so I had to change my own internal economy. I sat down with my budget, my beautiful, logical spreadsheet, and I performed a brutal surgery. I created a new, permanent line item for the inflated electricity cost. Then I had to find that $127 elsewhere. It was a painful process, like cutting off a piece of myself. The new laptop fund was officially zeroed out. My travel savings were slashed by 75%. My dining out budget was reduced to a token amount. My perfectly balanced financial ecosystem had been invaded by a voracious new predator, and the only way to survive was to sacrifice some of the other inhabitants. My relationship with my own home has also changed. My hypervigilance has relaxed, but it's been replaced by a low-grade, persistent resentment. Every time I flip a switch, I feel a small, bitter pang. I see the money leaking out, a constant, silent drain that I have no power to stop. My home is no longer a place of pure comfort and efficiency. It's a place I cohabitate with an expensive, invisible parasite. I have adapted. I have survived. My budget is balanced again, albeit in a smaller, more constrained form. But the lesson I learned is one that has shaken my core belief in financial discipline. I learned that you can do everything right. You can live small, save aggressively, consume mindfully, and still have the rug pulled out from under you. You can lose over $1,000 a year not because of a bad investment, not because of a reckless purchase, not because of a job loss, but simply because a quasi-monopolistic entity decided to change the numbers in their database. This is the new face of inflation, the one we don't talk about enough. It's not just the price of gas or groceries. It's a stealth tax on the basic services of modern life, a quiet erosion of our disposable income. It's the slow, relentless downsizing of the American dream, one utility bill at a time. My $40 bill was a symbol of my control. My $167 bill is a symbol of my surrender. And that is a loss far greater than $1,000 a year. What would you have done if you were in the same situation? Maybe you've gone through something similar, or maybe you see it differently. Write your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them, and I know others will find strength in your words too.